Merry back end of the Christmas, everyone. Coming up in the new year. Exciting time of year. It's a special time of year. It's a good time to reflect, think about what's new, what's next, how the year's been, what's going on in the new year, what you have to be thankful for, your families, your friends, your connections. And yeah, I'm excited that you guys are choosing to spend this hour here with me and Bryson and the team. We got a new camera guy today. His name is Gerald. He's right there. Hello, Gerald. Hey, what's up? So a new setup. I'm actually at a table today at the desk, still in my living room with Andrew's amazing painting in the back. So fun fact, my friend Andrew, who's the founder of Body SDS, the body therapy thing that I go to in Denmark all the time, he also painted this painting specifically for our living room, and we got it folded up and brought it on the airplane back home to New York from Copenhagen and got it framed and hung here. And it's designed specifically for this space and for the dimensions, but also for the vibe of the space. So really happy with that painting. Play the intro. All right, I got some exciting things I would love to share with you guys. As always, here to take your questions. Anything I can do to serve you guys, that's why we're here. But something that came up for me today is the willingness to invest in oneself. I'll tell you a story about that from today, and then I'll tell you another story from a while back, some of the regrets I've had with not investing and some of the amazing experience I've had with investing. Also want to talk about the process of stepping into your genius. So a lot of us have found a zone of excellence. Many people discuss this. Gay Hendricks is my favorite mentor in this area, but others are like Dan Sullivan has a similar kind of concept. It's all the same because it's all about how human beings works, how our psyche works. But there's our zone of incompetence, the things we suck at. Zone of competence, things we can do, but we're not particularly great at. Zone of excellence are things that we're really, really good at and probably make a lot of money from. And then there's zone of genius, which is that special ability that we have that can, typically sort of midway through life, there is an invitation to really step into a zone of genius, and it can be really hard to do that because there's a strong pull to stay in your zone of excellence because everybody around you, benefits from your zone of excellence. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. And then I want to talk about another topic, which is about sort of the willingness to just really power through and mean it and make money, have the impact, get the results that you're after, kind of for real. All right, let's talk about willingness to invest in yourself. So this morning, I got an invitation from one of my mentors. His name is Dan Martell. He has a new book out in the new year. I forget the exact publication date. I think it's January or something. It's called The Buyback Principle. All about buying back your time. And it's something that he's taught me and some of his other mentees about in the past, and it's a really powerful concept. It's something that I practice. I've hired a personal assistant who helps me make my food and pick up packages in the package room here and just organize anything practical around my car or my house, or just kind of be the CEO of my stuff is her role. Hiring an assistant, an executive assistant. I have had one that starts on January 2nd. I've been without for a while, but if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant, right? And so if you're trying to build a real business here and you're still, mucking around doing bookkeeping and paying the bills and all that kind of stuff, you're wasting your time. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing $10 tasks if you can get someone else to do them and pay them $10 an hour to do that, and that frees up time for you to go do stuff that makes you more money than $10 an hour, that's a good trade. That's a really good trade. And you want to do that way sooner than you think, because you really want to get yourself focused on those higher level tasks. And if you can't think of anything that you can do that would bring in more money than $10 an hour, then you probably shouldn't be in this business in the first place, right? Like there should be ample of things that you can do. Go out and post content on social media, or call someone up and make a sale, or send an email with an offer or something, right? There's tons of things that we can do to make more money. So you always want to hire out helpers, people, so that you can buy back your time, so you can do. The only two things that you ever should be doing are the things that are in your zone of genius, the things that you're the only one in the world who can do, the things that only you can do, or spending time with people that you love, or just doing things you love because you enjoy them. Those are the only two things you should do. The things that only you can do, or the things that you really love and enjoy. Everything else, you want to, over time, outsource, get someone else to do that, to buy back your time. That's the core of the buyback principle. I adhere to it. I'm a fan. I'm also a fan of Dan Martell generally. He's a really good guy. He's really smart. He's been an incredible mentor of mine. And so he made an invitation over the holidays here that I didn't see until this morning to invest in his success. He specifically has an offer that if you buy, which is very common, by the way, when people launch books, but if you buy X number of books, then you get something, and X number of books, you get something else. So if you buy 500 copies of his book at $25K, which is kind of expensive per book, but who cares? I don't actually need 500 copies of the book. I can only read one, and I'm going to get it on my Kindle. But if you buy 500 copies for $25K, you get to join him at a private mastermind at his home in Kelowna in Canada. I've actually, we went to the fun side story here. We went to Kelowna in June of last year for a meeting with the boardroom mastermind group coaching program of his that I'm a member of. And we went to his home, his new house that he has there, beautiful home, on the last night, except I didn't. I never got to go because I had a mountain bike crash. We went out mountain biking, Dan and the rest of the founders there and myself, and then on the way down, I managed to have a freaking crash. I ended up spending 8 hours in the Canadian emergency room, and I didn't get out of there until like 2 a.m. when they wanted to keep me over. There's a whole fucking drama story. They're so incompetent, it's insane. They wanted to hold me overnight, and they were like, yeah, fuck it, I'm out of here. Like, am I free to go? Get out of here, get in the taxi, get back home at 2 a.m. But so I missed out on going to Dan's home, so I'm planning on going there in June for this mastermind. And it's the kind of thing, like, for me, it's still like $25K is not a check that I kind of just write. I think about it. Especially like right now, I've been investing really heavily in the company in some crucial hires, the personal assistant, executive assistant, as well as more engineers and marketing and consultants and whatnot. Like really growing the company, really attacking hard on a lot of areas. So like it is something that I have to think about for a second. But then again, not much more than a second, because I know that investment is going to pay off so much in so many ways, right? Like I'm sure I'll learn something. I'll take something away from those 2 days that is going to be valuable. I always do when I go to these kinds of events. Number two, who else is in that room? I learned after I signed up that one of the people who's going to be there is a guy named Taki Moore, and he's one of the leading coach trainers in the world. He's the person that trains Dan to help him with his coaching business. He has access to all the coaches. So now I'm going to be in a small group of just 10 people in Dan's house in Kelowna in June with this guy Taki, who can I've been trying to get in touch with actually, and who can introduce me to thousands and thousands of coaches for the Simplero platform, right? I'm not saying that necessarily is going to work out just like that, but there is the opportunity. I can build a relationship with him. I'm sure that something is going to come out of that. And then there's 8 other people in the room that I get a chance to meet and just spend 2 days with and get to know each other, right? And when you're in a room like that, you really get to know each other on a whole different level than if you just get on a short Zoom call or phone call or some other kind of introduction, right? You sit down over lunch and you go on a mountain bike ride and you hopefully don't crash and whatnot. So that principle of investing in yourself, even when it feels scary, like for me, that has been a crucial element of my growth. I've learned so much from being in those rooms, from meeting those people, and there's nothing that beats being in the room with the people, and especially at smaller, more intimate events. Some of these events that I go to will have 200 people, 250 people, 300 maybe even. And it's like there's not that sort of cohesion, but if you're in a group of just 10 people, you get to kind of know everybody, right? It's a whole other intimate experience that's worth way more. So $25K for that, for me, easy, done. The third element though is I know that this project is really near and dear to Dan. So as just a token of appreciation and as a way to support him in his most cherished project right now, which is getting this book out to the world and maybe landing New York Times bestseller status, like that's something that really matters to him. So I know that my gift there, even that alone, is worth it. I'm like, there's 1,000 ways that 25K investment can pay off down the line from just having that bond, that connection strengthened just a little bit. So I want you to think about investing in that way. Like, you never know what you're going to get out of it, but chances are you're going to get a ton out of it in different ways than you could imagine. If you are open to it, if you set yourself up with that mindset, with that way of thinking about it. There was, years ago, a book came out called The 4-Hour Work Week. You guys have probably heard about it. An author named Tim Ferriss. And I read that book, I heard about it. He was very smart, so he marketed it first to the tech community, because back then, the tech community were the people who were kind of the most online, and they were on Twitter, or they were like really blogs and all that, back when blogs were a thing. Like, there's this whole network of blogs kind of before Twitter and social networks really had taken hold. So he knew that if you could get into those circles, it would spread from there. And so I heard about it very early. I bought the book, I read the book, and it was like really, eye-opening for me in so many ways. And then he offered an event, which was a 2-day event called Opening the Kimono, which is all about him explaining every single thing that he did to achieve bestseller status and to have this massive success with his book. And at that time, I was like, oh shit, $10,000, that's a lot of money. I don't know that I can afford that. And so I didn't. And after that, I've met several people who were in that room and who said that they met this person in that room back then. Like, it turned out that room was kind of like a who's who, an early cradle of key internet entrepreneurs that I then chose not to be in that room with, because I was like, well, like, I'm not looking to write a book right now, or I don't know if I'd be able to use this exactly, or I don't know that like this way that Tim Ferriss has gone about marketing it everything would be right for me, yada yada. Like, I had these reasons and excuses for why I couldn't go. One of them obviously being that it felt expensive and I couldn't afford it. Looking back now, I'm like, what a dumbass. Like, how stupid and small-minded that was of me. Like, had I been in that room, chances are, like, I would have met very early on a bunch of the people who went on to really do incredible things online, built some relationships, probably led to some other networks and connections and insights. And I'm sure I would have learned something in the room that was useful. And maybe I would have learned something that would be useful like a couple of years down the line when I was ready. Like, I'm in the process of finally like writing my second book and planning on really making that a big smashing success. So now it's really relevant. Maybe I would have gotten to that point sooner. Who knows? It's always hard to know, and everything is exactly as it should be and all of that stuff. But the lesson for me is when there is this kind of opportunity, to me, here's how it feels inside. It feels like, fuck, I want to do that. And it feels like, on the one hand, right? And then on the other hand, feels like well bought, like this, like can't afford, like. It's like two distinct. One is a voice inside my head that's kind of like, dull and annoying, and it's like the responsible voice, right? Like the voice of reason. Oh, be reasonable now, and that's crazy, and that's stupid, and that's too much, and like it's too expensive, and we can't afford, and what about this, and what about like all this stuff? That's kind of that voice. And then there's like the thing that just hits me in the gut is like, fuck yeah, I gotta do this. And every single time I've overwritten that fuck yeah, let's do it voice, I've lived to regret it. Another big moment for me was one of my favorite musicians, artists, Sting, the British dude, bass player, all that. You guys know Sting. Message in a bottle. And the Englishman in New York. It's funny how that song just keeps fucking going for years and years, decades on. It's crazy. Anyway, I had a chance to meet Sting in person. It was going to cost me $2,000, and I was like, oh no, I can't afford it. It's too much, right? I was like, fuck, man. I was like, well, I'll get the chance again later. Like here we are, 10 years later, the chance hasn't been there since. So, lesson for me is definitely fucking be willing to invest. There's something that happens inside of us, inside of me anyway, when I choose to make those investments, make those moves like that. And it's like, I'm like, okay, I step up, I take myself more seriously. I spoke with one of my friends who's also a Simplero member. His name is Lloyd Burnett. He's a great coach. And he said one of his clients at one point bought a 10K coaching program from him and then basically never did anything, never signed up for any sessions, never did anything. And he was like, he checked in with him, like, hey, what's going on? Like, what's up with you? And he's like, dude, I got everything I needed just from making that investment. Like literally just by making that investment in himself, it was like, oh, yes, got it. Take myself more seriously. Now here's what I need to do. And then just go fucking execute and go do it. He's like, I don't need the freaking coaching now. For me, meeting Richard Branson was a little bit like that. It was $15,000 to be in that room at that reception to meet Richard Branson. And they promised the moon and they didn't deliver jack shit. But I still, even before I got in that room, I had gotten more than my investment's worth, actually, right? Not from anything that they'd promised and delivered, not at all, but entirely from how I had been transformed in the process, because fuck, I'm gonna meet Richard Branson. I've been wanting to meet this guy or been a fan of him for decades, and now I have a chance to actually meet him in person. And well, what am I gonna say? Well, I wanna talk about this, my Notable Nation project to kind of, because I know that he's really into world affairs and the elders and all that stuff he has going. So I want to talk to him about my vision for how we can overcome the political divide and bring people back together again. And so I was thinking a lot about well, how would I say that succinctly if I got to be able to say that in 30 seconds or less, or kind of give the TED talk in 4 minutes. How would I say it exactly? What would his counterpoints be, and what would my responses to that be? And I prepped a lot for that 45 minutes that I thought I was going to get with him. In the end, I had 30 seconds with him, and then it was kind of on to the next thing. But so I never got to say my spiel, and what I found was that he's not my guy. He's not my guy for that. But thinking that he was, and me prepping that speech internally and just sharpening my thinking around this thing was easily worth $15K. I could have hired a consultant for $15K to sit down with me and work all this shit out. And I was able to work it out myself. And so then you ask, well, isn't that a waste of money then? And that's where I'm who cares? Who cares? Money is easy. money is always circulating, always flowing. If you create the right systems and you help people achieve something and help them with their goals and stuff, you can get yourself in the money flow. So if you pay, like, and it's not, I don't think of it as like my money, it's just the money and it's flowing. It comes into me and my job is to have it flow back out to the right places so that it helps the whole, right? It helps me grow so that I can become bigger and better at what I do, so I get more resources to manage. And in the process, and then I also, place it where I think it's going to help other people grow, so that the totality grows. That's very much my thinking around money. It's like, money is useless unless you put them to use for something, right? And so it's investing in your own growth and investing in other people and sort of the whole together. And so I don't care if I paid over here and I get paid back over here. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as people, I do have a problem with if I pay someone and they promise something and then they don't deliver that. I don't think that's reasonable. That actually irks me. But then again, like, I might as well just let go of that too, because who gives a crap? Like, that's their karma to deal with. It's not how I operate. It's not it's not who I am. But now I know that about you, and I can deal appropriately and whatever. It's gonna come back to me somehow. And so you adopt that mindset, it becomes it becomes extremely fun and effective. And so, yeah, I've learned so much from making those investments. I started in earnest with the Richard Branson thing. Was actually the first kind of major original modern investment that I made, where it was like $15K for like a meet and greet with Richard. All right, fuck it, let's go. Let's do it. I had to think about that a lot for weeks until I finally did it. But then it was like, all right, fuck it. And then I got to Necker Island, and then I got into a bunch of mastermind groups. I'm in 4 or 5 mastermind groups now. So yeah, and it's gold to be in those groups. Like, I learned so much from these people, just being in the environment, et cetera, et cetera. So highly, highly recommend that you dare invest in yourself.
Mr. Brother Spiritual Teacher. Investing, I'm kind of locked here. You said something so powerful. Do you feel that it's equally spiritual as it is practical? Because it feels like, you can't really quantify, you're not quantifying it just by like, here's my, give me $15,000 worth of value back.
Right.
It's deeper than that. So, is there another level to investing that most people overlook?
Oh yeah. I think totally there's a spiritual part to it. I had a conversation with Gay Hendricks about 10 years ago. He was like, he asked me, how much are you investing every year in your own growth, and like workshops or coaching or mentoring or any kind of like books even. And I was like, not that much, a few thousand maybe. He was like, you need to invest a lot more. Like, what he said was like, whatever you invest tends to come back tenfold, right? So it's kind of like that you choose to put your money into something, and that act alone has that impact on you. Like, it changes you, and it comes back some way through some channel somewhere. Right? Not necessarily this specific transaction. So you're exactly right. There's like the transactional piece, and then there's the spiritual piece, the energetic piece of how you evolve as a person because of the investment alone.
That's major, man.
It is, yeah. And I can't tell you exactly the mechanism or how that works, but it's been my experience too that it's like, yeah, it feels, it does something to us. Like, okay, like, I gotta step up. I gotta be a bigger person. For me, like, thinking about how, Elon Musk at 51 years old is the richest man in the world, and he just literally bought a company for $44 billion of mostly his own money. It's like, okay, like, that, and he built all of that stuff up from the ground up, right? Like it wasn't like his parents were billionaires or anything. So it just helps to remember that a lot is possible for us if we want it and if we believe in it and if we're willing to put in the work. Like the way I think of it is like if we're willing to do whatever it takes on the inside and the outside, then amazing things are possible for you, like way more than you thought, right? Like if you could become a billionaire in X number of years, like hey, I'm like close to 50, right? That means I have a good, at least 20, 25 good years of working ahead of me, probably more because just the way I am. I can do a lot of fucking damage in 25 years, right? So whatever age you're at, right? Whatever year you have, like if you're 70 and you're like, well, it's too late and I can't, well, you've got at least 10 good years more, right? That you can go hard at something. You're not gonna have the energy of a 20-year-old, but you're also not gonna be a fucking stupid and crazy as a 20-year-old, right? You got a lot of the wisdom. So it's never too late, and who cares if it's too late? Like go fucking at it if that's what you want, right? If that's what drives you. Like that whole like, well, like imagine you're like, oh, it's too late for me because I'm already like whatever your age is, right? I'm 40, it's too late. I'm 70, it's too late. I'm 80, it's too late. I'm 90, it's too late. And then you just never do it, and then you end up living like for another, like if you're 90, you're like, oh, it's too fucking late. And then you live to 100, and then you're like, fuck, I could have had like 10 good years of chasing this thing. Or you live to 95, you're like, I could have had 5 amazing years of chasing this thing. Like whatever the age is, like who cares? Like just go after it now, because if you don't start now, then like you will have even less time to go after it. And if it feels like, I don't know, like if it has that feeling of like, it is too much work, I can't do whatever, like that voice, like throw that the fuck away, because like that, like how useful is that? Then you can is that how you want to feel for the rest of your life? It's like, I don't know, I can't, like, nah. And actually, I mean, it leads me to the next thing is when we really mean it, shit happens, right? When we really mean it, if we're kind of dabbling, we're not fully committed. We're like, yeah, this would be nice, maybe, but not if it's too hard, and like, what do other people think? And like sometimes for me, I'll be like, I'll be kind of hesitant to really push through and really believe in it and be forceful in that way, because I'm like, what do they think I'm stupid or silly, or like what if they disagree or they don't like it's something with how other people are thinking about it. And I'm like who cares, right? Like if I show up with utter conviction, that's gonna rub off on them. But if I show up like, are you kind of convicted? Are you in? Are you getting like? And then like they're like, look, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about yet. And then they're gonna give off this like weird kind of like not really like kind of mid-level low vibes. And then I'm like, well, they're probably not that into it. Like, I'm gonna hold back a little bit. Like that's my pattern. When I look at Dan Martell and the way he's pushing his book right now, like he's fucking like, guys, I've never asked you for anything. Like this is a project that's really dear to my heart. It really mean a lot. And he pulls out all the stops to get everybody and all his network, his relationships, his friendships, all of his resources. He puts in everything to get this book out there. And that level and he does it, well, I'm just going to say that level of commitment and belief, that's what makes it happen. Right? If you're not fully committed, if you don't fully believe in yourself, then it's going to be really hard. And believing in yourself is a choice, right? You choose to believe in yourself. You're like, no, like I know that there are all these voices, all this noise. Like for me, it's like that voice out here, and then it's like this kind of feeling along my back of like, I don't know, like wobbly, a little oozy, woozy, insecure kind of feeling energetically in my body. But choosing to be like, fuck it, I believe in me. It's kind of like standing up for that little boy that lives inside. Like, I believe in you, son, right? I'm going to stand up for you. I'm going to protect you, and I'm going to be that rock that is like, fuck yeah, we're going to do this thing, right? And doing it because I know that this is the way to do good in the world. This is the way to show up as who I am. This is the way to be able to play on the stage that I belong to. And so for you, like, what is that you really want to do that you're not fully committed to yet? What is that resistance? What are those voices that comes up? What is that pattern that I bet you've played a million times before of why you don't deserve, or you're not good enough, or someone else or should have the spotlight or the accolades, or what is that for you? And let those voices surface, because you don't want to just ignore them, but then you want to look them in the eye and say, hey, thank you, I appreciate it, and I don't need your input right now. I'm gonna go this way. Like, go play, go leave me and my boy, me and my girl alone while we go out and do this thing. The people who change the world, the people who change other people's lives, are the people who have the level of conviction, who believe in themselves. I've been watching a Netflix show called Ancient Apocalypse with Graham Hancock is his name. Fun side story there, we can get to maybe later, but it's really fascinating. So it's fascinating on many levels, actually. So he's been going back he explores pyramids and like ancient structures and challenges the narrative of when they were built and how. And basically his thesis is that there was an advanced civilization some 13,000 years ago that we haven't acknowledged, that had developed, that built these incredible pyramids and structures and buildings, and were really crafty astronomers. And basically it was I forget, it was like during the Ice Age, or I think it was like during the Ice Age, and then at the tail end of the Ice Age, there was this this meteor that lands on Earth and creates floods and fires and complete fucking chaos, and a lot of people died. But there were some survivors, and they came out and taught people about civilization. So the people who are left over were like, oh, in chaos. And then these giants, in some of the myths, came and taught people how to create civilization, how to do astronomy, and how to create a functioning society again, that which had kind of been lost in these catastrophic floods. So think of yourself as one of those giants, right? That comes to the people and teaches them how to avoid carrying the traumas of the parents into the children, right? How to avoid taking harmful drugs and medicines that you don't need, that actually make you less effective and less healthy, and waste money on stuff that you don't need, versus taking just the stuff that you need and that actually supports you, right? Imagine yourself being that giant that comes into people's lives and shows them how to do it. Those giants are incredibly valuable, right? It's such a brilliant thing that you all are doing for people in this world, and the more that you can really believe in yourself and go out there with that level of conviction of like, this fucking matters, and I'm not sure exactly what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna go at it, and whatever I do, I'm gonna mean it. I'm gonna freaking mean it. If you show up with that level of conviction, you're gonna see your results completely transform.
That's huge.
Yeah.
The apocalypse framework, I'm thinking how we can
Yeah.
already, begin to make that a deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Like,
Yeah. Well, and another thing with that Graham Hancock show, which is really fascinating, is how he's constantly battling archaeologists. They're so committed to their frame of mind that says, society has only been around for so many years, and before that was like hunters gatherers, prehistoric barbarians without language or whatever, I forget, but like, and he is just constantly going up against them there. He's like, well, here's the evidence that this structure is actually way, way, way older by like thousands of years, sometimes 10,000 years than you guys say. Like, here's actual evidence. And they're like, what evidence? What are you talking about? Right? And this is like, just understand that this one person with his dogged tenacity to go around and just keep at this for decades of like, no, like it doesn't make any sense. And like, he's like, the traditional archaeologists won't listen to the myths because they're like, oh, it's just stories. But maybe there's some truth there. Maybe they tell us like important things, like some of those myths that are still being taught today or that are being described in the inscriptions. Maybe they tell us something that's valuable information. There's a nugget of truth in there. But then the others are like, no, don't care about that. And this is how the world works. Anybody who's an expert on any particular area, whenever you read the news about your area of expertise, right? I bet that you have this experience of like, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, right? And that's how it works in every area in the newspaper. Like every narrative that you see out there is pretty much garbage. And it's only because of individual tenacious people who are like, no, that's not true. And they go out and they dig for the truth and figure out what the hell the truth is, and they start talking about it. Whether it's, with pharma or with, overcoming trauma or with your health or diet or whatever it is, like that's the people who change the world. And the scientific community is so often doing anything but science, right? It's all about like, well, this is what the community believes, and like if there are facts that contradict that, they're like, well, we don't listen to that because like we have our model here, and this is what it says in the textbooks, and must be what's true, even when it's not. That's so common, not just in the scientific community, but everywhere. And you have the opportunity to be that person with a scientist's mind in your world and just be like, this is what I have found to be true, and whoever wants to listen to you, you're going to be a giant in their lives.
It's powerful, man.
Yeah, what did you want to say before?
I don't even remember because you just dropped a bomb. I was really making sure I took notes on that. That's pretty amazing. Like, do you think that when we come about like these things, like that, we talked about group thought before, and thinking like that, to do that requires a lot of boldness to literally to go against, what the community is saying.
1,000%, right? Because we have so much programming that says if I get kicked out of the tribe, I'm gonna die, right? Like back in the day, literally, if you were not part of the tribe and they kicked you out, you would freeze to death or starve to death or get eaten by some animal or bug or something, right? Or accidentally eat a poison thing. You would die if you were not part of a tribe. So that instinct is so deep in us that if we go against the tribe, we're gonna get kicked out. And most people are tribe first thinking. They're like, what does my tribe think? I'm gonna think the same. And they know instinctually, if I were to believe something different from my tribe, I might be in trouble, because that's a threat to the tribe. That's a threat to the tribe. If people start to think differently, that might be a threat, and they're likely to actually kick you out of the tribe today. You're not gonna die from that, but socially you might die, right? Socially you might get ostracized. And that's powerful too. Like, I think you were the one that mentioned that stat that says like if a monkey baby gets a choice between a mother who gives him connection and love and touch and another who gives food but no connection, they're gonna choose connection and starve to death every single time, right? We crave connection and love more than we crave food. And so that instinct is super deep. I had a sort of one of those past life visions some years ago. I don't know if we all have those, but during a guided visualization, guided meditation, it just came to me how this image of being a Native American, eons ago, whoever knows, and being a shaman for this tribe, and specifically being kicked out of the tribe for like communicating something true, and they just like the tribe just didn't want to hear it, and me, the shaman in this story, was kicked out of the tribe and died a painful and lonely death out in the wilderness. Quite a stark image, and it's definitely something that I've been processing around having that fear of speaking against the common prevailing quote unquote wisdom or lack thereof, to be okay with that, being okay with going against the grain. Definitely something that, and I think it comes up. I think it comes up even just like, showing up as you and being out, putting yourself out there, which we're all doing here, right? It can be super freaking scary to do that, to be out there and stand for something, even if it's not super controversial and not really controversial at all. It's still scary because there's going to be some fucker out there who's like, you asshole, you idiot, and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you blah, 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 right? And it's going to, whoa, shit. It's going to hit us the first few times until you start to realize that, they're just poor, sick fucks who are really destitute and alone, and they need a bunch of love, and you just do that instead.
Is it possible? I mean, what do you think it takes to do that, to get that mindset, to build that up in you, to be able to do that? Because everything, like you said, in us is wired to not do that. It's like, does there have to be some sort of some encounter experience that we have that says, okay, now forget the group and I'm going to go towards this truth? Or is that part of that being committed to an idea kind of thing that you're talking about that gets us to that place?
Yeah. I think it's a decision, first of all, right? Most people are just like, I'm just going to be quiet. I'm not going to say anything. Just go along to get along, or whatever it is, right?
That's the one.
Or is it get along to go along? No, go along to get along. Yeah, don't rock the boat, right? We have a lot of euphemisms for this, or a lot of what do you call it? Like phrases, things we say for this kind of thing. And then at some point you're like, this doesn't feel good to continue doing this. And you're like, fucking you try. And maybe you do a little bit, and then you notice how you feel, and you're like, all right, that was scary. But it wasn't that bad. And then you kind of keep going, and you maybe deal with whatever triggers, emotions you have in it. But at some point, I think there is an opportunity anyway to be like, all right, fuck it. I'm just gonna like be who I am and like take it or leave it. And these days, what's so different from back then is that these days, yes, you might be, controversial and polarizing, but you're gonna find a tribe, right? It might not be the same tribe, and that can cause strife. Like so I went to do some paramotoring in Utah, and the instructor was a former Mormon who had gone Buddhist. So now he was a Buddhist, but his wife is still a Mormon, and they're totally in that Mormon world. And so him being a Buddhist there is like, that had been very interesting. And sometimes I think people find that they're like, oh shit, like, can I be in this relationship if I'm still, if I kind of break out from this tribe, and what are the consequences? And maybe they can, maybe they can't. But yeah, I think that there's that point where it's like, I can't live a lie anymore, right? For some people. A lot of people seem to be fully capable of living a lie, and that's, I think that's, bless them. And by the way, guys, we are still here to take your questions, so raise your hand in here in the Zoom thing, and we can definitely get you on.
Absolutely. Well, come on, Shweta.
Can conviction be cultivated? What are the precursors to embodying conviction? Apologies if you already addressed, I joined later. Yeah, 100% it can be cultivated. I think it's like you start by, like really questioning. So the conviction is the internal part, right? Of like knowing what you believe in. And that takes just looking inside and asking questions and getting clear, like, what do I believe? Why do I believe it? What is that based on? Like, what would be my parameters to change that belief? Like, what would I have to see? What kind of evidence would I have to see in order to change that? That's a really powerful question to ask, right? What kind of evidence would refute my conviction here? And then, because we always want to be open to, hey, I might be wrong on shit, right? Everything that I believe in, that I say, I might be completely off base. I might be wrong, and better evidence comes up. That we always have to keep that open. But then, like, it's really thinking through what are all the counter arguments, and then reflecting on them. All right, that's valid, but here's why it doesn't hold water in this case, or here's why it doesn't apply, or here's why it's wrong. And so you really think it through. And a great way is to actually engage, right? Have the conversation, put yourself out there, whether it's over Christmas or dinner or New Year's or Thanksgiving or whatever, family things, or on social media or whatever. Like, put yourself out there and listen to the feedback and see what people say. And if they have great arguments, then you're like, yeah. You take it into consideration, and maybe you strengthen your position, or you nuance your position, or you change your position. But that's how I would build it. And then then there's the decision and the commitment to showing up. At one point, I did this exercise that Gay and Katie has, that is like you kind of draw a circle in front of you, and then you make it jump into the circle, and that's your commitment. You can do that as a couple when you commit to each other or a project together, and you're like, jump. Like, there's something fun about like making that physical jump in there, and it tends to a little bit bring up some of those voices. Generally, when you commit to something and you're like, I'm committing fully to this thing. Like, I'm done, I'm committed, there's no question. That's going to instantly bring up all of the voices, all the reasons why you can't, or why you shouldn't, or why it's the wrong thing, or why it's never going to work, or why you're like whatever loser that like can never get anything right, or whatever your voices say. These are some of the voices in my head, and you want to be aware of those voices, and you listen to them. You're like thank you, go away. Sometimes there's some emotional healing that needs to be done, and we need to actually feel into the feeling, let it expand, breathe into it, let it pass. Maybe you shed a little tear. But the act of committing is going to bring up those voices, and then you keep doing it. The key to committing to is to recommit, 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 and recommit. You commit to something, and then you get off track, and then what you don't do then is you don't beat yourself up over it, or ask like, oh, why did I do that? And it's terrible. I always do that, and go all drama on that. You just turn back around and recommit. Right? That's how you do it. Like I just give you like a kind of plain example. Diet. So when was this? I think December 12th. So I've been doing this kind of liver cleanse diet a little bit on and off, and then the team would be in town, and then we would go out and have a breakfast and meals and stuff and other things. And I was like, I wasn't really doing it. And then December 12th, I had a session with Kelsey, who's like a diet nutrition expert lady, really, really cool. And she was like, this is the thing that you need to do for the next month, and then we'll talk after that. And since that day, I've just been like full on, right? There's not been a single moment of deviating from this style, because I just made a decision. I just committed. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing. All right, I'm going to do that through this January 10 when my next travel starts, and then it's going to be a little rocky. Actually, I went to Florida last week with my man Bryson, and I had my assistant cook all the food for my trip and put it in my suitcase, right? So I had all the food that I needed to eat on the entire trip in that suitcase, and I didn't eat or drink anything other than what I brought and some water. So it's like, all right, let's do it. Let's get it done. It's that level of like, it's the difference between, yeah, maybe sort of, to like, all right, I'm committing. The first time when I quit alcohol in 2019, it was just like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna stop drinking for a year, see what happens. And then it was easy. Like, it's once that decision is there and you really mean it, it becomes fucking easy to do it. Because you already decided. You're not even wasting a second thinking about whether you should do it or not. You just decide it. So yeah. Oh, hey, shit, we got Ann. Yeah, let's get Ann on. I missed your hand.
So quick question.
Yes.
I totally agree with everything you're saying about just really like stating it, and having that conviction. Here's what I'm wondering, and I'd like to hear your take on. So number one, like, I really appreciate it back when you like would just speak in the current politics or whatever is happening, your viewpoint. It actually made me have more respect for you. And you were kind of talking in things that were not in the Simplero wheelhouse, which I thought was brave because it could be polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
But then it attracts more of what people who really dig what you have to say. Yeah. Now, Jordan Peterson talks about how like people have like a core essence of a disagreeableness to them or an agreeableness to them. Mm-hmm. So with that,
the big five.
What was that?
The big five psychometric test. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so with that, I would say I have a lot of controversial thoughts in the sense of like, I don't follow mainstream narratives on a lot of things, but I don't like the conflict of being disagreeable.
No, dude, I don't either. It's just, I like the feeling of lying less, right? Or of hiding. I like that less. So like, and especially like if you get me in person, right? Like I'm always like very, very, yeah, I'm different than I show up in online and on Twitter and stuff like that, right? But yeah, I think it's for me, it's there is like, are we talking facts and factual? That's like one thing, and then are we talking people and individuals? That's another thing, because I have a lot of empathy for every single person that disagrees with me and every single person that would hate me or my viewpoints. Because I know that they're coming from a good place, in the sense that, like, what I always remember is, if I believe what they believed, I would act the exact same way, right? It all comes down to, what are the thoughts and beliefs in here? Even if you're a serial killer, like, that person thinks that in some way they're doing something good, or what they have to do, like, they're rationalizing to themselves. So I always get super curious about what is their belief system and where are they coming from. And then, yeah, I think I've gotten comfortable with the disagreement over time. Just like, hey, no one's dying from disagreement. And every once in a while, I found too that at first, like, you get people's kind of defense mechanisms where they're like, oh, like, whatever it is. And then, are you one of them? And then over time, they're like a year later, 2 years later, they're like, maybe you had a point there, like, or, so it kind of evolves that way. Yeah, that's what I got. Thanks, Ann. All right, with that, I think we're done. I wanted to talk about stepping into your genius as well, but I guess we're gonna have to save that for next week, because I got on a rant with all the other topics here. So. Thank you guys for everything in 2022. Just a few minutes to reflect here. 2022 was a really pivotal year for me. It was the year that I really was able to get out of my shell and into leadership at the company and beyond. It's the year that I really owned my knack for software, and figured out how to build a team that can deliver on that talent, that knack. And that happened in June, along the same time as my mountain bike crash in Kelowna. and it's been completely different since. It's also the year that I decided to really step into to figure out marketing for Simplero. Like before I try to hire someone to do it, now I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna figure it out, and then I'm gonna hire people to do the things that I figured out. And that stuff is still in process, but it's a whole different game now. Like 2022 has been a dramatic game changer for me personally. We started doing this show back in the summer, and it's been super fun to be with you guys every week. I really appreciate you showing up live. I know a lot of people are watching the replays, etc. I really appreciate you guys for being here live with me. It makes it special to be able to do this live, and some of you guys are showing up every week. I don't know what happened to Starkey. We miss her.
We miss you.
Yeah. But maybe she'll show up again. She was like, what's her first name? I forget. Kimberly Starkey. She was on every show, like the first 10 or 12 weeks or something, and then she dropped off. And I'm like, where did she go? Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe it was me. So anyway, it's been phenomenal to do this with you guys, to grow with you guys. Really, really excited for where we are all going together in 2023. The Academy has been a game changer, and I know some of you guys are in Academy. Those of you who are not in Academy, you absolutely should join Academy. Reach out Sammy at simplero.com, and he will hook you up. It's phenomenal. I'm so proud of what the team are doing there, and the change that we're making, and I'm so excited about the things that we're doing with Academy going forward into 2023 and beyond. I really want to make that the premier place for coaches, consultants, information entrepreneurs to learn how to build a sustainable business that is beyond just themselves. And then I'm super passionate about creating my high-end mastermind, Calvin's Inner Circle, like my 45K a year mastermind, really focused on the inner work and the spiritual work. And that's something that is a big commitment of mine. It's that shift from excellence to genius that I'm going to talk more about next week and wanted to talk about today. But I'm really pumped about that. It's scary. And very, very exciting at the same time. So yeah, again, thank you all for being part of this journey with me. And I'm really excited to be continuing this journey in 2023 and to see where all of you are going to go and where we're all going to go together. Appreciate you all. Have an amazing new year. See you guys in 2023.